Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. Let's talk about Tyson Fury and Derek Chisora 3. You know, it's very, very easy for us to just dismiss this. It's an easy fight. We know how it's going to go. Listen, I am in agreement with you. I think this is a mismatch too. I've not met anybody that thinks that Derek Chisora is going to beat Tyson Fury, or even that he has a realistic chance of beating Tyson Fury. However, rather than just repeating the same old tired narratives that a lot of other pundits are repeating, or other channels, or other former fighters, or whatever, what we want to do, and we always want to do here, is look at the various angles. We want to consider all the sides of a possible argument, even ones we don't necessarily agree with. You know, a great way of training yourself to be a critical thinker, a great way to train yourself to debate, essentially, is to debate the argument of a side of an argument that you don't actually agree with, something that you disagree with. If you have to learn to argue it, it forces you to critically think. So we're going to play a sort of game here, and we're going to pretend that Derek Chisora has approached us and he said, guys, how do you get me to beat Tyson Fury? Now, if you're a technical analyst, a performance analyst, a trainer, whatever capacity he might want to employ you in, and he turns to you and he says, you've got to help me win this fight. Here's a lovely shiny paycheck. What are you going to say? Forget it, Del, I can't help you. Take a dive? No, you're going to try and bring to bear your knowledge of the sport to try and come up with a game plan that maximizes his chances of winning the fight. You're not going to get him to be the favorite, but you might be able to put him in a position whereby he goes from, say, 2 or 3% chance of winning to 10% chance of winning. So we're going to talk about how we can maximize those chances. Before we get into it, I've got to tell you a little story that really tickled me tonight. As you guys are fully aware, it's the Football World Cup at the moment, and Brazil, the tournament favorites, made their debut tonight against a very talented Serbian outfit. And the Serbs were very good at stunting them in the first half. In the second half, when Brazil did score, they then started to purr. They were scintillating. They played some beautiful stuff, and they won 2-0. Adi Oladipo, who's a fantastic presenter on DAZN and of course on Talk Sport, so he doesn't just cover boxing, he covers football as well and a bunch of other sports. He put out a tweet, and we got to troll him just a bit of fun banter here. He put out a tweet to say that he can't understand how Robert Firmino is not ahead of Richarlison in the pecking order. There's no way he's better than him, and he's not having it. Well, Richarlison tonight scored 2 goals on Brazil's opening game, and the second one was a stunning overhead kick. So we got to give Andy a bit of stick, a bit of banter. I've already started on Twitter. A whole bunch of other people have. He's taking it in good jest. He was saying nobody was tweeting me initially, and all of a sudden everyone's piping up. Listen, I've got to be honest with you. I've had a moment not too dissimilar. Back in 2000, so we're going back 22 years, man. I can't believe I'm that old. I was sitting there with a bunch of friends in the living room, and we were about to watch Yugoslavia play the Netherlands. And I was telling them, boys, you know what? I actually like this Yugoslav team. They've got some talented players. I won't be surprised if we see a bit of an upset today. They're like, okay, yeah, we'll see. We don't really know them. Let's see how it turns out. Yeah, Yugoslavia lost 6-1. Right, so I've been through it too, and I got the stick. And Ibrahim, don't think I've forgotten about you, bro. Sending me a tweet telling me you think the favourites for the tournament are Argentina and Germany. And Argentina gets spanked by the Saudis, and Germany lose to Japan on their opening day. I am exposing everyone. I want all that smoke when it comes to the World Cup banter. Let's go after everyone. But let's get back to Fury and Chisora. The second fight was a peak Tyson Fury for me. Fantastic footwork and foot movement, agility, understanding of angles. Derek Chisora was a younger, fresher man, and he still couldn't really get close. He really struggled with the switch to southpaw. And because Tyson Fury is so fleet of foot and so agile, he was able to always maximize the range whenever he wanted. So Del's trying to come in and bob and weave, and he would get on his bike, essentially, punish him because he's got that reach advantage, pop him with varied shots of power. In other words, sometimes he's just flicking it out there, then he'd follow it up with something big, and he'd keep stepping around the ring. When he was to switch to southpaw, because he knew that Derek Chisora is not a guy that throws a straight right hand. When it comes to southpaw versus orthodox, the right hand is a key shot for you, because if you can step on the outside of the lead foot, you don't have to, but if you do, you line up the shoulder with the chin. So when you line up the shoulder with the chin, you just extend your hand out, basically, and you're touching the guy. By lining up the shoulder with the chin, there's less distance to travel than if you've got to go across your own body to reach the chin at a diagonal angle. So if you throw a very straight right hand, that's a great shot for you. Because Del likes to bend forward and then bowl over a right hand, there's a loop on it. And that loop, when you turn southpaw as Fury did, as you turn away, you're now maximizing the distance between the two heads, so to speak. And as that right hand comes over as a loop, you have more time to see it because it's not straight. It's not coming there, it's coming around. So as you've got more time to see it, if I'm popping you and moving away to my own right, not only has it got more of a loop on it, I'm now maximizing that range. So it lengthens the distance it needs to travel. And through those angles and the understanding of angles and distance, Fury was able to put on a masterclass. How do you overcome that? Well, the one area that Tyson Fury has declined, in my opinion, is his foot speed. He doesn't move as fast as he used to move. Now, this does not mean that he's not still an elite level heavyweight. You look at somebody like Floyd Mayweather. I used this example the other night on my other video regarding the pay-per-view price for this fight. Pretty boy Floyd, the younger version of Floyd, was very explosive, a boxer puncher, very aggressive. As he got older and he started going through the weight categories, that power was not going to carry the same impact. He had hand injuries as well. You need to adapt. His feet started to slow. So he started to add other wrinkles to his game. And by the time he became Money Mayweather from Pretty Boy Floyd, he had changed. He was a different type of fighter. Both fighters would have been an elite level fighter. Each version was elite, but they were different. Well, by the same token, this Tyson Fury is different. He's more flat-footed. That's not to say he's stuck in molasses, stuck in the mud, but he's just not the twinkle toes he once was. But he's added other wrinkles to his game. His punching technique is now a lot better. And he's put on weight in order to be more destructive. It gives him a physical presence in there whereby he feels stronger in the clinch and he feels like he can deliver more weight behind his big shots. Now, with Sugar Hill Stewart, learning that Kronk style and the delivery of his punches becoming more efficient, he's become a lot more destructive as a puncher, even though he doesn't move quite as well around the ring. Now, that doesn't mean, like I said, by not moving quite as well, that suddenly he's not a great mover. When you're at the top of Mount Everest, even if you start walking down for an hour or two and then you stop and observe your surroundings, you're probably still top of the world, right? You're just not quite at the peak you were before. And that's kind of how I see Tyson Fury here. I'm not seeing any drastic decline at all. He's just declined in certain areas and added new wrinkles, which is a strengthening in other areas. So what chance as a, I don't want to use the word washed, but a Derek Chisora who's so far into the twilight of his career that most people are talking about him, considering retirement, or at least fighting at a much lower level and not going after killers. For me personally, you have to understand one thing, and that is the chickens always come home to roost. What you reap, you shall sow. A little biblical phrase there. What you invest into your body today comes out another end in the future. Pause, wait, that didn't sound right. I don't mean regarding the digestive system. So what I'm saying essentially is what you invest today, you'll be paid out later, essentially, right? And the fact of the matter is Tyson Fury spent a very long time, 3 years, abusing his body with terrible junk food, and that was the least of his worries. Class A drugs, alcohol. He damaged his body. Now there will come a point where he starts to age, he'll start to decline at a rate that is faster than if he didn't live that lifestyle. When you consider the guys like Floyd Mayweather, like Bernard Hopkins, and they talk about, I've never had a fizzy drink, or I haven't had a fizzy drink for 20 years, I haven't had a donut for 20 years. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that guys that blow up in weight and then lose a lot of weight, blow up in weight and lose a lot of weight, there's a reason they decline more quickly, physically speaking. So there will come a point where Fury is going to reap what he sowed during that time. Now, one of the things that alcohol abuse does is it can cause a fatty liver or an inflamed liver. In other words, your body is what begins to first show signs of decline, whether that's stamina, whether that's becoming less durable to the body. It's not necessarily the head, it's the body. Now, when you consider, for instance, Sergey Kovalev, what a fantastic fighter. His jab was unbelievable. It really was a superb punch, his balance, his ability to throw power shots with both hands. That wasn't just natural power. That was his ability to produce leverage from a balanced stance. He was brilliant. But he was vulnerable to the body. He became vulnerable to the body. And one of the reasons the rumors were is that he had a drinking problem. If you're Derek Chisora, we've already spoken about Tyson's ability to maximize that range with angles. Forget the head for the first 6 rounds. I don't want you even throwing any attempted shots to the head. When Dillian Whyte was doing it against Tyson Fury, he'd go back onto the ropes, he'd lean back, and Whyte would miss drastically. He's too agile for that. You don't need to do that. Keep your punches low for the first 6, 7, 8 rounds if you're still hanging in there. And in the championship rounds, after you've battered the body and he's forgotten pretty much about the head, that's when you can start to bring a looping over the top right hand. Because if you start to tire him out, if you start to affect the body and he's unable to move around the ring, and those chickens come home to roost all of a sudden mid-fight and he starts to feel old overnight, these body shots that I used to take, I'm feeling them a little bit more right now. My lungs, I'm out of breath. We saw that Tyson Fury took a round off, or some portions of rounds off, against Deontay Wilder. We didn't see it go into the latter stages against Dillian Whyte to know whether that would have happened again. But he was very controlled in his performances. He was very controlled in the way he was delivering shots. Don't allow him to do that. Don't give him that breathing space. When you try to get Tyson Fury up against the ropes, which is where Chisora would want to have most of his success. He's not going to want to box him in the middle of the ring, right? He's going to want to force him backwards, pressure him onto the ropes. Tyson Fury has a couple of different approaches. One of them is that he'll back up to the ropes, but although he's at the ropes, there's still room for movement when he's up on the ropes. So if you then think, I've got my feet close enough, this is what I've been waiting for, I'm so desperate, I've been struggling so much from the outside, once I'm in, I've got to land something massive to the head, and your feet aren't close enough and you throw a big over the top right hand, he'll either take an extra step back or lean back onto the ropes and then use the ropes to bounce back to come off and throw a counter. Or if you're going to fall in to smother your own work, he will allow you to come in and then wrap you up. Alternatively, he'll turn his head off and pivot out. And he'll punch you as he's doing that often. Or if it's a big, particularly dangerous punch you're throwing and doesn't want to risk exchanging, he'll literally just turn off the shoulder, see the shot whiz by, and he'll escape that way. So when you think you've got him up against the ropes, you have to stay composed, because he's always leaving that little bit of room behind him. Canelo's very good at doing this as well, by the way. In other words, if you lean back onto your heels, you can't really go anywhere from there. You're already leant back. If you go back onto the ropes and your back's really up on the ropes and you're almost pressed on the ropes, again, there's nowhere to go backwards from there. So if somebody like John Ryder, something that he's very good at, is getting his feet on the outside of one of your particular sides and then throw a wide hook from the other side, and it's almost like he captures you so you can't get out sideways, and your back's right up against the rope so you can't move backwards. Fury's always leaving that space just so that he can lean back further or take a lean back, then a pivot out and get out. He's very, very good at that. The other approach that he'll use is he'll use a stiff arm. He'll put his arm out like a straight arm, as though he's just touching your forehead, holding your forehead, just to keep you off balance and jump back, and he's almost using you as leverage. From that position, again, you don't go for the head, because by doing that, he's cutting off the angle for an over-the-top shot because his shoulder's there, and if it comes over, he'll just literally roll behind that shoulder. So what is open to you again? It's the body. So as he has that arm out, pump that body, hit that body. If you freeze him up to the body first, even if he leans back, if you've frozen him up to the body, from there you can work. There were moments where Dillian Whyte even was landing individual powerful hooks, but then not following up on it. But he would land the hooks to the body. Whenever he would go to the head and he had Fury up against the ropes, Fury would start ducking and diving while he's up on the ropes, showing that upper body movement and agility, and he'd be missing wildly. Chisora's got to learn from that. Punish the body almost exclusively. Every now and then you're going to have to mix up something upstairs in order so that he can not focus solely on covering the body, right? You want him to be thinking in two minds, but 80% of your work has to be to the body. So if you can get him close enough and target that body and get him tired in the latter half of the fight, you can start to let go towards the head who knows what could happen? Who knows whether you can land something big late on? But you will have to consider the hand positioning for that chin, because Tyson Fury will look to whip in that uppercut. He had a lot of success with it against Dillian White, and he'll look to bring it in again against the guy who's bobbing and coming in and low and trying to throw these over the top shots. He will look for that shot. So you're going to have to be defensively responsible. And when you are low and you're going to step in, pump that double jab and shoot it upwards and up jab out of a crouch position, almost as though you're shooting a shot put. Keep him busy in that regard, just so that you can close the range while punching. But listen, we're only talking about how you maximize your opportunities. The fact of the matter is Tyson Fury is still looking very, very destructive. And to be quite honest with you, I worry about Derek Chisora in this particular fight. So let me know what you think, ladies and gents. If Chisora said to you, how can I maximize my chances? How are you going to advise him to do that? Thanks for watching, everybody. Please don't forget to hit the stiff jab on the like button, a right cross on the subscribe button, and an uppercut on the notifications button. Thank you. Take care. God bless.